Hello again. Thank you for attending our first accounting webinar. I'm excited to share with you some core benefits of using Brightpearl Accounting and some of the specifics around how to best use and navigate our accounting features. My name is Sarah Stein, and I work as an implementation consultant at Brightpearl. I've also previously worked with our development team on some of these accounting features, and though I'm not a CPA, I have also had a good amount of experience working with a variety of other accounting software. We'll start with me demoing these main areas of accounting, and then we'll have Q&A at the end of our session. If you haven't already submitted your questions, please do so via the chat window, and our moderator will try to include these at the end. If I'm not able to get to your question, I will respond separately after the call. The main focus for this presentation is Brightpearl's core accounting, but we will also get into some specifics of how to handle certain key tasks inside the system. I highly recommend you practice these tasks and work with other users who may be doing transactions in the system to make sure you are capturing your data properly. First, we will review accounting configuration settings that may affect data entry and reporting. Then we will review the core of Brightpearl, which is order and inventory management, and how this will affect your accounting. And then related to this will be a discussion of the difference between this order processing and other income and expense related transactions. Then we'll move on to chart of accounts, banking, reports, and journal entries. So this is our agenda. As I mentioned, we'll be going through all of these in my demo account. And since there's a lot to go through, I'm going to dive right in right now. And hopefully we'll have sufficient time for Q&A at the end. So without further ado, here is my demo account. And there are two places where you're going to find most of your accounting setup options. The first is under the accounting menu. You have a little section here on the bottom right that says setup. The first thing I'm going to show you is accounting periods. You can see here I already have two set up, and any of these accounting periods that are already set up can be deleted just by clicking either of these links. And if you'd like to set up a new accounting period, you just need a start and an end date, and then you click the green button, and that will get added to this list on the main portion of the page. You can also lock your accounts from this page. Again, just pick a date and click Lock Accounts, and this will lock data entry prior to that date for everybody except for your Brightpearl administrator. Administrators can continue to do data entry anytime. Okay, also you'll notice under the accounting drop-down menu is your chart of accounts, and we will be getting to that shortly after we finish the configuration discussion. Most of your configuration settings, however, are going to be under this setup link. You'll notice when I click on the setup link, we get another side menu pop up over here on the left, and this basically functions just like the menu up here does. You'll notice blue and black font. The black font is basically the title for that section, and the blue font are hyperlinks that will populate the main portion of the page, just like any of these links here when you click on these drop-down menus. So we're going to get started over here with accounting options. Lock over to accounts is the first one. And what this basically does is if your customers have a credit limit and you select yes, this will prevent anyone from creating a sales order for that customer. And if you say no, of course, you can still create sales orders even if they pass their credit limit. Next is lock matched bank transactions. This one is fairly obvious. If you click yes, any transactions that have been marked as matched can no longer be edited by anybody who has user access to Brightpearl. Next is last invoice reference. You can pretty much type any number here in this box. It doesn't have to be 4 digits. It could be 5, 6, or 7 or more. And you can see underneath here, we've got 1048 typed in here, so it says your next invoice number will be 1049. And this applies to all invoices from all channels. There's actually no way to separate them. But this will mainly affect your manual orders. The next one, use cost of sales accounting. This is really how Brightpearl was designed. So we always recommend that people select yes. However, we do give you an option to select no if you need to for some reason. Basically, the difference is if you select yes, a sales will post an entry to reduce your assets and increase your cost of goods sold. And on the purchase side, when you receive a purchase order, that will increase your asset and affect your stocks received, not invoiced account. And then once that purchase order has been invoiced, that will go to accounts payable. If you select no in this section, then anything on a purchase order goes directly to your purchase account, and no cost of goods sold will be tracked in your your sales transactions. What this means is that your company will have to do manual stock takes, regular stock takes, and manually record inventory to make sure that your stock numbers are accurate inside Brightpearl. So for that obvious reason, to avoid all that work, we recommend you select yes, if at all possible. The next item is used today as tax date when invoicing. What this means is if I select no, you could have a sales order that's dated from a prior month, and when you click the invoice button on the sales order, what that does is it posts the income to the date that the order was created, as opposed to the date that it was invoiced. And I can show you exactly what that looks like. I'm going to come over here to another side of the demo account, and I'm going to show you quickly how to enter an invoice so you can see what that looks like. I have some test customers in here. I'm just going to pick one. And I am going to, well, let me first point out this is a sales order, and it does not become an invoice until somebody comes in here and clicks this invoice button. So I am going to change this date to say August 1st. And now this is the sales order date. So I can type anything on this order. I'm going to pick some chocolate bunnies. And you can see for $10.50, I'm going to save this order. And I'm also going to show you on reports, I'm going to open up one more link. In your general ledger, you're not going to see this post yet. So this order for $10.50 is not in here yet. However, if I come over here and I click invoice, you can ignore that message. And I'm also going to click Save just to make sure it's saved. And come back to the general ledger. I need to refresh the page, which I'm doing now. You can see the 1050 went into the general ledger. And you can also see it's in your income statement. Well, you can't really see it from here, but if I drill down in August, you can see the $10.50 posted to August 1st. And not today's date, which is September 24th. So that's how that works. Next in this section is use today as due date when invoicing. Basically what this does is it uses today's date as the due date unless you have terms for your customers. And again, let me just show you what that looks like quickly. If I come to a customer, I'll show you what this looks like on their record. I'll pick Victoria Tibbs, and I'll make sure she has some default terms in here under financial. If I scroll down and I put terms of net 15, and then come up here and click Save. If I now go and, well, let's do a new one, a new invoice for Victoria Tibbs. You can see the terms defaulted to net 15. So anything you put in here, or I'm sorry, on the customer record will always override what you have in your configuration settings, but otherwise it will use today as the due date for your invoices. Okay. Next is use default email address for billing email. What this does is every customer has a default email address. That's what this is. This is your default email address. Every customer can also have an account's email address. This is where all financial information is going to be sent if you have an address here. If you have this box, this radio button selected to yes, both of those email addresses will pre-populate on any emails that you want to send to your customers. If you say no, then the email addresses will be blank. And I will show you that quickly as well. If I click on email print and I click email again, you can see this populated with Victoria's default email address. So that's what that means. Next on this section is our default check template. We only have one in here right now because the only other things that might show up in here would be a custom check template that a user would create on his or her own. Basically what this does is we have voucher checks that can be printed from Brightpearl where the check is on the top and the middle and bottom vouchers are identical. If the spacing of any of the fields are not accurate, you can move those up, down, and left and right by millimeter and save those as a custom template, and you can select that from here. Now we are going to be updating this feature very soon. We're going to be integrating with Bill.com, so this feature will become much more robust in the very near future, just FYI. So those are some main configuration settings. Also note we have Save Changes button up on the top and on the bottom. If you make any changes, don't forget to click that button. Otherwise, none of your changes will be saved. Okay, next in this section is accounting tax. This one is quite short. This tax scheme comes from the first interview that happens when a new user signs up with Brightpearl. So this cannot be changed internally in the system. However, if you need to have this changed to a different tax scheme, you just let us know and we can change it for you. The default tax rate, this is based on any of the tax codes that you set up in Brightpearl. You can create as many tax codes as you like. I have a drop-down list of quite a few in here already, and I've set this one as my default. Basically, all this means is when I create a sales order, this is the default code, and it is just a default. This can actually be changed anytime on an order. Just by clicking here on the drop-down menu, you have access to all the same created codes that are in the system already. So you can see this with the default, and you can change it to any of the ones in the drop-down. The next item on the setup menu is accounts. The first link here is for hiding accounts. All this really means is if you use a numbering system for your chart of accounts, like 4,000 for sales, you can choose to hide those if the customer finds that confusing or just doesn't want to see them. Then if that is selected to yes, they would only see sales in the chart of accounts and in any drop-downs where the chart of accounts might appear. The next item is show map code, That is if you have a custom chart of accounts and you have mapped your chart of accounts to our default chart of accounts in Brightpearl, you can choose to show those codes on reports and lists if you click yes. The next couple of items, default sales and purchase accounts, these are what show up by default on your sales and purchase orders. You can see that here again and on the sales order. You also have the drop-down menu. You can pick another income account if you like manually on any order you create in the system. But these are going to be the defaults. Also, you should note a customer can have a default for a sales account and so can a product. I can show you that quickly as well. If the customer has an account selected in here, in the Finance tab, then that is going to show up here on the order as the default. And if the product, that is the priority. So if the customer has an account selected, that's going to show up on the order first. If there's a product with the default sales account, the same on the purchase side. If that would show up second, and then this would be the third option, and of course third. The shipping default, this is if you want to separate out your shipping income on orders. This is the default account that would get applied to. The next two items, discounts and allocate charges. These, actually those don't necessarily go together. These are, if you use discounts, you can apply that to this account specifically, and you can change this anytime. Allocate charges, these are for payment fees. So if you have a merchant online and they charge fees like PayPal, this is going to be the default that gets posted to. The next few items, inventory corrections, these are related. Adding and removing from stock and writing off and doing any kind of value correction. We have these set to go to a base cost of goods sold account. However, you can look in your chart of accounts, and if you have other correction accounts or cost of goods sold accounts that you'd like to apply these to, you can. And where you're going to see this is from the product list. I can show you, you can make a correction. I can come in here, I can click on any of these numbers, and you can see I can add inventory directly from the product list. I can just type in a quantity, and this is the default cost from this product record, this product's product record. I can change this if I want to and type in any reason and click add. You're probably not going to see this location unless you have location tracking turned on for your warehouses. But I probably need to enter something in here because I do have that turned on. And then I click Add Items. And when I close this window, I can come over to the general ledger. And I can see that post to the account that I have set up on this screen. Okay. The next couple of items, stock in transit. This is actually for when stock has been received on a purchase order, but it has not yet been invoiced. This is the account that it will get allocated to. And cash till account and end of day cash error, these belong to our point of sale configuration settings. So if you use our point of sale system, this is where the cash for your cash register gets allocated. And if you use our end of day reconciling, which is here under the accounting drop-down menu, again for point of sale, any discrepancies will get posted to this account. And finally, order rounding corrections will get posted to this account. This one cannot be edited because it's already been used. If it hadn't been used, you could actually change this account as well. So those are the main configuration settings for accounting. There are a few more in here that you should know about. Under localization, we have tax codes and components. So this is where you set up your tax rates. So we go to tax components first, and you can see basically you just give them a name and a percentage, and these can get added to tax codes. You can edit and delete these if they've never been used. However, if they have been used, you can't change them. If you want to see what that looks like, you just click the green button, you give it a name, make up any name, and give it a percent and click Save, and it'll get added to this list. And then when you're ready to create your tax code, you can either click here or you can click here. It's the same difference. It takes you to the same place. And you can see I have some created already. If I click on the pencil, it says the edit screen. It shows me what I've created already. I've got a tax code that's just denoted as T, and I've selected these components to be part of my tax code. And this is the percentage that's going to be calculated by default on all sales orders and invoices. And you can see you get the same page. If you click Add a new code, you just give it a code name, a code and a code name, and you select the components that you want to be able to use to total for your sales orders. And one more thing on this section for configuration. Under staff users, you have some permission settings that might be relevant. If you click on permissions for any of your staff users, you have an accounting section here. And you can click and turn these off so people can or cannot use any of this functionality. I just want to point out also, if you turn off all of the boxes in this particular column, this entire menu will disappear for this user when this user logs in. So if you want to be able to turn this off if you have a lot of users for your company, you can do that just by clicking all these buttons, and they won't have any access to any of the accounting functionality in this drop-down menu. Okay, so that is all the core configuration settings. Let's talk about accounting for inventory. I'm going to walk you through a purchase order and a sales order, and I'm going to show you what that looks like on the general ledger so you can see how all of those items post. So I'm going to start here with the new purchase order. And I'm just going to pick a test customer. And again, you can notice the status of the purchase order up here. And I'm just going to pick my favorite chocolate bunnies. I'm going to order, let's say, 5 of those for $4.85. I'm going to click Save. And then I'm going to come over here to my general ledger. I'm going to refresh. And you'll notice nothing affects the general ledger. There is no $4.85 here. I'm next going to come in. I'm going to receive inventory. And again, you may not have this on your screen. This is because I have location tracking turned on. It's defaulting and it's populating the number I ordered as the number I'm receiving. You can always change that if you like. And I'm just going to click Submit. And Save, just to make sure this saves to the system. And I'm going to come back over here to the general ledger and refresh. And there is $4.85 went to stock in transit as a credit. And we have a debit to our stock asset account of $4.85. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to receive the invoice. And I'm just going to type in any reference. Use today's date. I'm going to uncheck this box. What this does is if I made any adjustments to the price here, it's going to update my default cost prices in the product record. So I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to click Receive and Save once again. And go back to the general ledger. And you can see the entry that's been made is a debit to your stock in transit and a credit to your accounts payable. And last but not least, we're going to come in and we're going to pay this order. Allocate payment is on the bottom right. You have to pick a bank account, and you can type in any reference you like. And notice it defaults, it puts the full value of the order in here. You can always edit that if you need to. Click Edit, Allocate Payment, and Save once again. And back to the general ledger. And you can see we now have a. So that is the purchase side of inventory for Brightpearl. Okay, now I'm going to show you the sales side. We're going to create a new sales order. Again, I'll just pick a test customer. And again, notice it's a sales order status right now. And I'll pick my chocolate bunnies again. And let's pick 3 so it's an easy number to spot. So we have 3 chocolate bunnies. I'm going to save this order for $10.50. And, oh, I accidentally did that on the wrong page. So let's go back to the general ledger here. And notice no entry has been posted yet. Now if I come back, I'm going to fulfill and ship later. This is typically what our customers do so that they have all the warehouse functionality so they can print, pick, pack, and ship their goods out notes. I'm going to save this, and I will show you there should be no accounting entry. We refresh to the general ledger yet. Okay, now I am actually going to go to our goods out note section, and I'm going to find that order for $10.50. Oh, I think this is it from today, and I'm going to mark that as shipped. And now if I come back to my general ledger, you should see cost of goods sold in here. And here we go. So we have an entry that credits our asset account for $5.25 and has cost of goods sold or as a debit for $5.25. Okay, next we're going to come to the sales order, and we are going to invoice it. You can ignore my warning messages. I just am out of my accounting period. And I'm going to click Save again. And back to the general ledger. Now you can see the post for accounts receivable, a debit, and sales is a credit for $10.50. And last but not least, we're going to come in here and mark this as paid on the bottom right. Pick a bank account, any reference, and notice again it pre-populates the total, and click the green Allocate Payment button. Click Save. And back to the general ledger. And you can see the post to the bank account. There's a debit of $10.50 and a credit to accounts receivable of $10.50. So I hope that cleared up any questions about posting inventory via Brightpearl. We'll talk about this a little bit more. I did have some of your questions about posting in different scenarios, and we'll get to that a little bit later on in the training session. Before we get there, I want to point out there are a couple of other ways to post income and expenses in Brightpearl that are not inventory related. Let's talk about income first. The first way to post income to Brightpearl is here under the customer drop-down menu. You have a way to post a quick invoice. You'll notice on this page there is nothing on here that can designate anything related to inventory. You can, however, type in a customer name, so this can go to accounts receivable. We'll pick Stewie and type in any dates. You can have it automatically create an invoice number, or you can type one in. You can type in any details you like. And notice down here you can decide if it's tax, if you want it to calculate your taxes for you or not, and you pick a tax rate. Now if I type in a net amount, it automatically calculates the tax. Or if you type in the total, it will reverse calculate your net amount for you. And also over here you've got a full chart of accounts where you can allocate where you want that income to go. So you can scroll down here, you can do a search. I'm just going to leave it at sales for now. Also notice you can mark this as paid. If you don't want it to go to accounts receivable, you just want it to post against your account, you can choose to do that this way. And when you click the green button, it'll post it automatically as paid. And you have one more link down here that says extra options. What this allows you to do is to allocate this income to a specific channel, project, or lead source. So if you want to be able to run your reports and include these expenses in your filters for these particular options, you just need to select what you need to select here. And when you click enter, you'll be able to filter by these and include those in your reports. I am going to just record this as is so you can see how that looks. And you can see the accounts receivable here. If I can remember which one it is. We can look here in the balance, and you can see the detail for this particular customer. And this is the one I just entered. So if I go back, there are three ways you can pay this invoice. You can pay by clicking on this green icon here, and it will pull up all the open invoices for this particular customer. You just need to pick a bank account, and you can click Pay in Full on any of these rows or all of them, or you can choose just to type in an amount here. All the other fields are optional. You don't have to enter a reference number or channel. And then when you're finished, you click Allocate Payment, and it marks that as paid. Once those orders have been paid, you have a history down here, and you can see what's already been paid for that customer. You can also do a payment from your List Invoices page. You can see the one I just entered is right here. You have a Pay button. It takes you to exactly the same place that we just looked at. And one more place you can come to take payment is here. This one is a little trickier. You have to actually find the customer by hovering over these alpha letters and finding the right name. I'm not sure. There he is. And you have to be careful. You have to move your mouse all the way over and click on the name to pull up that same screen again. So there are three ways that you can make a payment for that customer. Okay? Next is the vendor side. Oh, actually, before we do vendor, let me talk about income that is not related to a customer. That you're going to find under the accounting drop-down menu. Over here under Money In, if you click Enter Receipts, notice there is no drop-down menu for a customer, but you can come in and post everything else. You can pick a bank account that this is going to get posted against, and you can pick your income account that you want to allocate this to. You can pick a date, any description, and again you have the tax calculation option here. I'm going to say no for now, not taxable, and just type in any amount. Now notice you have a new feature here called recurring transaction. This is actually really nice. If you're wanting to enter interest income or something like that and you know you're going to have it every month, you can make a recurring transaction, and you can say every month on the same day as above for, let's say, 2 more transactions. And you also have these optional fields for allocating that income account, or that income activity. Sorry. Now if I click Enter Receipts, it's going to post, oops, excuse me, I forgot to put that in there. Not only this particular transaction, but you're going to have a future transaction in there that you can post as well. And I will show you where to find that. So under accounting, you have under accounting, under tasks, you have something called repeat transactions. And actually I have quite a few in here. I think this is the one we just entered. And notice you can't edit any of these transactions, but what you can do is you can post them when you're ready to post them, and you can delete them if you decide that you don't want to post them. If you need to create new ones, you can go back and do them the way I just showed you. Also notice on this page you have different view filters. It's only showing what's overdue right now. If you want to be able to see everything so you can see what's coming up, you just need to click the View All. And you can see everything that that needs to get posted in the future. Okay, so those are income-related transactions. Let's talk about vendors or accounts payable quickly. It works exactly the same way. If I go to the vendor drop-down menu, I can enter a bill, and I can enter a test vendor, and enter any information. And I am not going to make this taxable. And I'll just enter this so you can see how this posts. So now if you come under vendors and you look at accounts payable, you can see for this customer I've got $500 in the current section. And this works just like on the income side. You could mark this paid here with the green money symbol. You can come in here. You must pick a bank account. All these other fields are optional. And you can either click the Pay in Full button. If you do, it basically just pre-populates this field for you, or you can type over it. And when you're ready, you click the green Allocate Payment button. You can also send a receipt to the customer if you want by clicking that box. And here's your history. You have remittance slips. You can see these are going to be PDFs. And if you need to print a check, you can print a check here as well. So that is one way to allocate a payment, and just like on the customer side, you can also allocate payments from your list. If they haven't been paid, you'll see a pay option over here. Actually, I don't see one. I don't see that one, but you can see your list of invoices here, and you can make a payment this way from the vendor payment screen. Again, just hovering over the names. And finding the right vendor. It's a little tricky getting over there. And again, it's the same screen. Okay, so that is for AP. And again, you can also post expenses over here without a vendor, just posting to the bank by picking the bank, the account, and the same information. And you can also set a recurring transaction on the payable side. It works exactly the same way. Okay, so that is income and expenses for Brightpearl. Let's talk about your chart of accounts now. Again, under the accounting drop-down menu. Chart of accounts is over here on the bottom right. This is the full chart of accounts. You can see all the basic information, number, name, type of account, if it's active and where it's been used. These blue numbers are hyperlinks if you want to be able to drill down and see what those total to, or what the details are for that total. You can also delete and edit any of these accounts. Actually, you can delete them if they haven't been used, but you can make edits, some edits to these accounts. You can change the name. You cannot change the code. You can change the type. You can change whether or not it's going to show up on expense claims for employees, whether or not it's active, if you want to have a default tax class, if you want to be able to reconcile it, and if you want to be able to use it as a discount, and if you want to be able to use it for account mapping. So notice you don't have a button on this page for adding a new account. That's because to be able to do that, you need to filter by account type first, which is what these are on the left-hand side. So if I pick any of these account types, it filters my list. So it's just showing banks. And now I have a green button here. I can click Add New, and you can see it's the same exact information. I just give it a name, a code, and make sure these settings are the way I want them. And you do have your full chart of accounts over here on the right, so you can make sure you're not duplicating any numbers, and you can pick an appropriate number for your new account. And then when you're finished, you just click Save, and that will show up over here on your bank list. So that's chart of accounts. Next, let's talk about banking. Banking is fairly robust. We have a whole banking section over here. There's a little bit of redundancy. I'm sure you'll notice when we look in the list bank accounts, this is the main area for where we have all of our banking information. There's a little bit of redundancy here if you want to be able to quickly navigate to reconcile for a specific bank. You can do that here. Importing transactions works the same way, and looking at activity reports, again, these are just quick navigation tools. This list bank accounts, is where all your banks are going to be listed. You can see we have quite a few here, and I'm going to focus on this top one since it has quite a bit of activity in it. You can see it's got the basic information here, so you know what you're looking at. It's telling you how many transactions have not yet been reconciled. You do have a reconciliation report. This is, there's not a whole lot of customization on this report. It's really basic information. But you can see basically it shows you what's been reconciled in total, and it lists out your unreconciled transactions. And when I go back to the bank list, you may notice payments out and payments in here. Basically, this is exactly the same thing as doing expenses or enter receipts. Those are the same, will take you to the same places if you click these two links. Transfer money, basically this just populates the from account to this account 1001 if I click transfer money. And you can transfer money from any account that's been designated as a bank. Okay, I'm going to go back to the list. View transactions. This is actually really important for you to know about. I often suggest to customers, if they use a lot of sales channels, to create what you might know as an undeposited funds account for each of those sales channels. So if they have lots of payments coming through on any given day, you may want to batch those and have them transfer to your main bank account so that those deposit totals tie to your bank statement rather than having, you could have hundreds of payments from a sales channel go to your bank account. That would be really difficult to reconcile. So I have, as an example here, I've got a bank deposits account. If I click View Transactions, I have a few payments in here. I can just click them all and click Batch Transfer for $5.64. I'm going to put that to my bank account. I can type in any reference, and that's going to go in on September 24th as one deposit for that amount as opposed to 3. So now if I, go back to this list, I can view my transactions in this bank account, and there's the $5.64. Okay, that will help you a lot with reconciling. We also have an activity chart. This is really just a summary of what's going on in each of your banks. It's just a nice little chart, not really functional, but just a nice little view if you like to look at that. The edit link, this is going to pull up the account information that we just looked at from the chart of accounts. If you'll notice over here, I do have one account that doesn't have reconcile and import links. That's because if I click on this edit link here, I don't have reconcile selected. If I click reconcile yes and then click save, those links will get added to cache. So now everybody has those function options. So I'm going to show you these two functions now. I know a lot of people have questions about these. I'm going to start with import and show you how this works. I'm going to work on this main bank account again too. You can see it defaults to this account. If you needed to change it, you could change it. It's asking you for your from and to dates, and I'm basically having it show all of my unmatched transactions. If I click on any of these rows on the left, it may, let me pick a better one, it may make suggestions on what it wants to match based on the dollar amount and the dates. So it's telling you what it thinks may be a good option and what the probability is of that option. If you think that that's a match, you can click on it and you can click allocate. If it's not a match, you can scroll down and make sure you're clicked on the bank transaction tab, and you can allocate it to a code, and you can allocate it to any of these optional fields if you like, and then click the save button. And what this is going to do is it's going to post this to your bank, to this bank, and it's going to match it to this entry that came over from your actual bank, from your actual bank account. So it's going to actually show that as matched on your reconciliation screen. If you're working on deposits and you have several invoices that may total to a specific deposit slip, you can click on this invoice allocation tab and you can do searches for invoices, and you can click on those the same way that you can with these match options until you get a total that ties to what's over here on the left side. I'm sorry, I don't have anything that really is a good demo for you, but you can do a search as well and you can tie those to these totals. Now, you're probably also going to want to import transactions. Brightpearl is a little picky about formatting, so I'm going to actually show you how this works. When you click on this import link, you have to have a CSV file. I happen to have one here I've created already, and what I need to point out to you is this date column. It's very, very picky about the format. So you're going to need to come in here and make sure you click on, let me backtrack. I'm not sure everybody saw what I did. I just highlighted the column, I right-clicked, and I clicked Format Cells. And I'm going to click on Date, and I'm going to change this locale to say UK, and I'm going to pick this one that has year, month, and date with the dashes in between. And I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to save this, and I'm going to ignore that message. And now I can come over here to import and browse for that file and click upload, and it'll load those transactions. Oh, actually, I probably should have changed those. I may have those in there already. So it just takes a minute. And you can ignore that. I told you it's fussy about formatting, but it did take. You can see the transactions imported again down here. So that's how you do the import, and that's how you do matching in Brightpearl. So now I'm going to move on to reconciling. I can actually get to that from here. So notice we've already got a list of reconciliations here for this particular bank account. That's what this means. If I click Add a New Statement, it's going to ask me for some basic information, a reference. I can call this August for your August bank statement. Actually, let me just show you what that looks like. And then you just pick a start and an end date. Just go back with the calendar. It's a little bit easier. Click today, August 31st. And then you have your bank again. It defaults to what we already selected. You can change it if you need to. And then put in an ending balance. I'm just going to pick something and click Save. So now you have a new row for August with all the information that I just entered. I'm going to show you quickly one that I've already reconciled just so you can see what that looks like. So this one's been reconciled. You can see there's a lot of color coding on this page. None of my transactions over here have been matched. If they had, they would show as a green circle. This is your explanation of all the colors down here. You can see pink is not reconciled and green is reconciled. If we were on a page that had not yet been completely reconciled, you would see yellow and gray instead of pink and green. So I'm going to go back to the list of statements, and I'm going to actually show you what that looks like. I can go to any of these statements. And what edit does is it allows you to edit any of this top-level information. So it takes you back to this page. And you can delete them if you want. And what open does, this is what allows you to reconcile. So I'm just going to pick one. And you can see the screen now has yellow because I've already saved some of my check tracking over here. And if I click anything else, it's going to ask me to save. But notice I don't have a reconcile button over here. It's showing me I've got a difference of 508.20. But if I want to be able to reconcile, I already set this up ahead, so don't think I'm smart. I just figured this out ahead of time. If I click 795, I now have a close statement button. And I can click close statement. Oh, actually, before I do that, I also want to point out you have include earlier unreconciled transactions here. So this information is based on what we have here on the edit screen, which it wants me to save first. So let me uncheck that real quick. I'm going to save just so I can show you what that looks like again. So these are the dates that are showing for this particular reconciliation. So if I wanted to show earlier unreconciled transactions, I just click that box and I can check any of these earlier ones. So I'm going to come back down here now and click on the 795. And now I can click close statement. And now that one is reconciled. So if you have any of your other statements and you start to reconcile and you're not finished, I can just pick any one. If I click any other items on here and I can see I can't reconcile, I'm not finished, I can click save and it'll make that row that I just clicked yellow. So now when I come back to this, I know what I've already done. So that is reconciling in Brightpearl. Next, I want to show you journal entries. That is also under the accounting drop-down menu. That's over here on the left. If you click Enter Journal, this one is fairly straightforward. You just enter a date. You can enter any details you like. This is not a required field, although it will give you a warning if you don't enter something in here, and I'll show you that. These are also all optional fields. So you can just enter any accounts you like from these drop-down menus. These are full chart of accounts that you can pick from. You enter your debits and credits. Projects and tax code are also optional. If you need to add more than 2 rows, you just keep clicking the Add Row until you have as many rows as you like. And when you're finished, you click Save Journal and it'll post it for you. If you give a journal a name, for instance, if you do maybe monthly or quarterly journals on a regular basis, and they're similar, the whole, every time you do them, you may need to make some tweaks. You just give the template a name, and when you click Save, not only will it post the journal, but it'll add it over here on your Save Journal Templates list. And I can show you what that looks like. I have one in here already. This is a journal that I already posted and saved. So if I needed to, I could just come in and change the date. I could change amounts if I want to, and then I could resave it. So that's how you can do some recurring journal entries. Also for journal entries, over here under tasks, we have corrections. If I click on corrections, it's going to ask you for the journal ID. So you'll have to make sure you know what that ID is before you come to the section. So I know we have one that's a number 1. So if I come in here, I can make any changes I want. And also notice I have a cancel journal button. This is probably really important for you to know about because anybody who has access to Brightpearl, if you haven't restricted their access, can come in and cancel any journals that are posted to the account, including payment journals. Payment journals we do talk about with customers because when orders come through from other sales channels, if there are mistakes which happen, those orders cannot be deleted until the payments are deleted first. So this is where a customer would come and cancel the payment journal, and then once that's saved, those orders can be deleted. However, you don't obviously want most people to be able to do that. So you would need to change that in your permission settings, and I'm going to remind you where that was. Over here under staff users, if I click on list staff again, and I click on permissions, you actually have a permission settings for corrections. So you can just turn that particular feature off, which I highly recommend you do for most of your users. So again, if I come back here, I just want to make sure I pointed everything out to you. You do need to put in a reason. If you don't put in a reason, it won't let you post the correction. So I can come in here. I'm going to leave that blank just so I can show you what happens when I try to post it. Let's just change the dollar amount. And I'll put in here any explanation, and I'll click Save. And it's going to warn me I haven't entered any details, but it's going to let me post anyway. And actually, if I don't post a reason, if I click Save, it's going to give me the same warning, but it's not going to let me post because I don't have a reason. So let me do it again. I'll put in test, save changes, OK. And it's still going to let me post. So that journal entry was updated. So those are results. Next, I'm going to talk a little more about reports. We did talk about this already, but I just want to show you a few more things that might be helpful for you. Income statement. Just remind you, if you didn't know already, anything that's blue is a hyperlink. Those are numbers that where you can drill down, and you can see the details behind those numbers. You can export most of these reports. You can click Export. You can type in, if you have a long report, it may default to exporting only 50 rows. I'll show you that in a minute. And there will be a link down here where you can click to just have it export everything. And then you make sure you click the Excel radio button, and then you can export the report. This might be really helpful for you if you're doing any auditing, or if you want to double check transactions. Your sales reports I know are really important to you. So I'm going to show you that in a minute. We do have a sales tax report in here. Actually, I'll just show you right now. You can drill down and look at these details on these hyperlinked numbers, but there's not a whole lot else you can do with this report. If you wanted to see, for instance, what's going into your taxable account, you can drill down, and then again you can keep drilling down to the invoice here if you needed to. Note also, for most reports you have filters. There are lots of different things you can filter by. You may want to filter reports before you export. One thing, a trick I wanted to show you that one of my colleague Nick pointed out to me that could be really helpful for you. If you're finding you're not getting enough information from the sales tax report, we have a sales detail report here, which shows all of the information that would go into the sales tax report. This may not have all the columns that you want. You may want to pull more information. If you come in here to show filter, we have a filter called Data Map. And what that does is when we import information into Brightpearl, we can create data maps where we can add fields that are not necessarily available on this report. And I'm actually going to show you that real quick. Let me just go to a different screen. Under Setup, we have Data Import, and under Orders, we have a data map for import orders, and these are the fields that we've selected for that import. So you'll notice these are the fields that we've selected for the import, and on the right side, these are fields that we haven't selected. If we wanted to select more fields, you have all of these to pick from. So if you decide you want to add more fields, you can come in here and take a look. You click the plus, it adds it over to the left-hand side, and then when you're finished, you click Save, and you have those fields available to you as well. Oh, I didn't mean to click that yet. I also wanted to point out to you this data import includes a lot of contact information. Just so you can see what is being added to this report, all of this contact information is going to get added. So if I come back over here to the sales detail report and I click Import, Order Import as a data map, and then I click Filter, you don't necessarily see all of that information here. However, if I click Export, I'm going to click all remaining rows. I'm going to click Excel and Export. It just takes a minute. And I'm going to download. And now you can see on this export all of that contact information downloaded with the report, even though it didn't look like it was available for that particular report. So you don't get this option with all reports, but this is a really good feature for this particular sales detail report. So that's a good trick for you to have. And also you should note under the accounting section here you have a More link. So if I click on this, you have a lot of other reports in here, some not entirely accounting related, but maybe relevant for you. So you come in here, if you can't find what you're looking for, take a look in here and see if any of this information is helpful for you. So we're already up to the hour mark. Hopefully you can stick with me for a few more minutes. I just want to mention to you before we get to our Q&A section, we do have, let me make this bigger for you so everybody can see it. We do have a partner program, and any of you are welcome to join a partner program. What this does, we have actually several types of partner programs, but the one that would be relevant for you would be the services partner program. And you can see here we are looking for skilled and experienced accountants who understand accounting challenges of running a retail business and want to help our customers. And this would be you. And we would really love to have more accountants on board. Accounting is a really tough area for a lot of small businesses, and we do get a lot of customers who don't have accountants yet, and they just use our default accounting, and they don't really understand some of the setup options that they have that may affect their books down the road. So to have somebody like you to help us with that would be really helpful to them. And the benefits for you are you increase your customer reach, you drive your customer retention, you can increase your profitability, you can complete your solution portfolio, and you're working with the software that's built and designed for a small business market. So if this interests you, you can go to this URL, brightpearl.com/resources/partners/become-a-partner/register. And if you forget all of this, you can just go to brightpearl.com, and under our support drop-down menu, you'll see all these links. And if you fill out the registration information, somebody will contact you and get in touch about getting more information to you about that. So finally, we did have a few people post some questions ahead of time. The first question was about posting transactions for nonprofits. If I understand the question correctly, I believe what you're looking for is making sure that those transactions are not taxed, first of all. So what you could do is you could set up a special tax code for those particular customers. And again, I'll remind you, you can do that over here under localization, tax codes. And you could set it up something like this for the non-taxable code, where basically you don't have any components tracked, but you do have this available as an option to designate on sales orders. And to make it even easier, if you go to a customer record and you know this is a customer that that shouldn't be taxed, you can come over here to the Financial tab and you could give them a default tax code. So you can assign that tax code, so anytime that customer is selected on an order, they will not be taxed. So it should be easy for the user. They shouldn't have to remember that. So hopefully that answers that question. Next, we had a question about, where'd you go? Prepayments for purchase orders and sales orders. That works very similarly to what I showed you on the demo. I'll give you another example for a prepayment. Let's create a new purchase order. So if I come in here, I can create a purchase order. And $4.85, we're going to create some chocolate bunnies. We're going to order some chocolate bunnies. I'm going to save this, and the customer hasn't received this inventory yet, but they're going to prepay. So again, I'm going to show you the general ledger, what happens on the general ledger for this. So there is no entry yet for that on the general ledger. You don't have to do this in any particular order. The receive inventory, receive invoice, and allocate payment can be done in any order. So I can actually come in here and allocate the payment now for that $4.85 and click allocate payment and save. And I will refresh the general ledger for you. And you can see that that posts to accounts payable as a debit and your bank account as a credit for $4.85. And then you can come back later at any point to receive the inventory and receive the invoice. And this will put it in the proper expense account or cost of goods sold account. It works the same way on the sales side. I'll show you that quickly. Let's make a quick order. Oh, I have price break set up. That's what that is. I'm going to click Save. And I will show you the general ledger. I'm going to refresh. Nothing happens. And I'm going to come back to the order. I can skip the Fulfill section, the email section, and the invoice section and go straight to take a payment. And just pick a bank account and click Allocate. And click Save. And back to the general ledger. You can see that debit your bank account and credit your accounts receivable. So that's how you do prepayments. You can come back to these orders anytime and finish the process of receiving the goods, shipping the goods, and invoicing the goods. And that's it for prepayments. And the last question, audit trail. So we don't really have an audit trail per transaction. What we do have is an audit trail for an inventory. If you look at your product list, you can see under this action menu we have audit trail for each particular item. Or if you click on the product drop-down menu, we have an audit trail for all products. So this basically shows all the movement in and out for every product. And you can filter this list if you need to by warehouse or product ID, and you can export this as well. So that's the audit trail that we have. Hopefully that works for you. And the last question I had was prepayments for out-of-stock items. Again, it works the same way, actually. So if we come in here and do a new sale, I can pick an item that is out of stock. So a trick, if you don't know it already, if I click the space bar, you get your full item list to populate over here. So I'm going to pick something that has no stock. Handbags, I believe, is actually what I'm looking for. There we go, no stock. So you can see this is red, 0 in stock, 0 on hand. I'm going to save these changes. And, oh, it didn't put in my price for some reason. Hold on one second. Oh, sorry, I have the wrong price list. I have to change my price list. I'm just going to delete that. Let's try again. Handbags. There we go. Now we have prices. So again, 0 in stock. I can have any quantity I want. It's going to calculate my total for me, even though we don't have any in stock, and I can take a payment. Just pick a bank account, and it didn't put in my amount because I made a mistake of putting the wrong price list in when I first did this. So there you go. So it took my payment, and we should be able to see this in the general ledger. There you go. So there's your credit to accounts receivable and your debit to your bank account. So I hope that answers all of those questions for you. I don't think we have time to go over any of the questions that you have in chat. I'm really sorry, we're running quite late. But I will get to any questions that you posted in here. And we'll get answers to you offline. So if you submitted questions, make sure we have your name and contact information, and I'll get those to you offline. And last but not least, thank you for attending. I hope this was really helpful for you. I know that's a lot of information to take in, feel free to enter questions in chat for a few more minutes while you think about everything we've talked about. And hopefully we'll see you again at our next webinar soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day.